Hello and welcome back, and in this video we're going to continue our exploration on animatable properties, and in this video we're going to be looking at frame and position animation. So let's start with frame. So views frame defines the width and height with an invisible frame that actually specifies its size. Now frame is another animatable property, and we can animate width and height for the view using animatable or animation modifiers. All right, let's take a look at the example. So we're gonna basically create a struct with frame animation example name. All right, so we're gonna basically use the timer. So let's create a timer publisher. We're also going to create two state properties, one to capture the width and another to capture height. All right, now we're going to use this inside our body property. All right, so let's go ahead and update the content view to show our frame animation example so we can see what we have going on. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to create our frame, and we're going to pass width and height, and then we're going to add a background. Now for the background, we're going to choose color.orange.gradient, and I'm going to put this background inside a shape. Now using in overload for the background, you can define basically what kind of shape you want this background to appear, and you can use your custom shape as long as they conform to shape protocol, or you can basically use the standard shapes that are provided by SwiftUI. In this case, we're going to use a rounded rectangle. Now we're going to add animation modifier, and notice the order where we are providing or adding the animation modifier. We want our animation to take place for the entire view, and I'm going to show you what the difference is when we add animation modifier at different locations. Let's go ahead and add animation. We're going to use spring animation, and let's go ahead and define basically pass a damping fraction, and damping fraction we're going to pass as 0.3, and for the values we can actually pass an array. So we want to track both width and height, so we're going to simply say width comma height. Now we want to update these width and height values basically whenever timer publishes a value. So we're gonna subscribe to those values by subscribing using on receive, and we're gonna press our basically underscore the output of the publisher. We don't care about that because we're going to be generating some random values. Okay, so we're going to simply say width is equal to double dot random in a range 200 to 400. For the height, we're going to do the same, and you can already see that our view has started animating. So as you can see, our view's width and height animates as it takes the new frame value. Now, when I was telling you about the animation, if you move the animation before the background, you're gonna notice that our animation does not play well, because even though our frame is animating, because the background is not animating, it's basically giving us a feeling that animation is not playing well. But animation is working just alright. It's just the animation modifier is not including the background as a part of the animation, which is why we actually added the animation after the background, so we can see the background basically changing at the same time as the frame changes. All right, so this is how you basically animate your frame for a view. All right, next we're going to create another example. In this example, we're going to focus on position. Now, position is basically the center of the view, and it is specified in the coordinate system in relation to the parent's coordinate system. Okay, so view basically positions itself inside its parent view, whatever the container the parent has provided. Now, when we add a view onto the screen like this one, its parent is the entire screen, so it has all the space available on the screen to move around. But if it was another view and we are nesting a view inside that, then the nested view becomes basically restricted to only render or move itself within the parent view. All right, with that, let's go ahead and create our view. Called position animation example. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this guy, because many of the things we're going to use, for example, timer we're going to use. So we're going to change width and height to X and Y, because we are dealing with coordinates. So X and Y are going to basically represent those coordinates where we're going to change the positions. Okay, so our timer.publisher is going to stay same. And the only thing that we're going to do is for the frame width and height, we're going to define them statically. So let's go ahead and put 200 and 100. And I also want to change this to 100 and 100 for our X and Y. Okay, for the background color, we're going to leave it as is. And we're going to attach the animation on X and Y value. We also want to add a position. So once again, we're going to add position modifier right after the background, so we can see our view's position basically being animated. Okay, so we're going to say position X and Y, and there's another overload that takes a CG point. You, from the previous example, you already know, how to use one of these. I'm going to use X and Y, but feel free to use CG point, or I would highly recommend basically experimenting with it. So we're going to say X value is going to be basically same as X defined in our state variable up in the beginning of the class struct, and then Y value for the position Y. Okay. All right, so both of these positions are set. Now we want to make sure that when we receive the timer publisher, every second we want to actually randomly generate X and Y. So we're going to say generate X and generate Y, basically populate those two values, and I'm going to reduce this to 10 to 400 and 10 to maybe 300. So Y is going to be basically 300 point, anywhere between 10 to 300 for the height, or for the Y coordinate, and X anywhere from 10 to 100. Actually, now I think of it, X should be a little bit less. So let's go ahead and do this 200 and 300 and 400 like that. Okay. Now let's go ahead and use this position example. So position animation example, and we're gonna build and run. And what we should see is basically our view animating basically its position. randomly, like, at a different location. And as you can see, like, the animation is being applied directly onto, like, whatever the X and Y position is, directly onto the view. All right, so this is as easy as it is, basically just basically adding the position or changing a position with the animation. And all we have done is essentially use the position modifier to change the position we're gonna show our view. Okay, all right, with that we have reached the end of this video as well. And thanks again for watching, and I will see you guys in another video. Thank you.